All right, well, welcome everybody to our oral history with Tex Allen. I think some of you know Tex and some of you don't. Tex is a member of the family that first integrated First Unitarian Universalist back in the mid-1950s, shortly after the congregation decided to make a public statement that it supported Brown v. Why am I stumbling this morning? Brown v. Board versus Board of Education. There we go. The church decided to make a public statement at a congregational meeting saying that they supported Brown v. Board of Education and were calling for churches in Houston to be desegregated alongside the school system. And shortly thereafter, Tex's family, under the, leadership of your mother, Vivian Ayers, right, joined the congregation along with your sisters, Phylicia Rashad and Debbie Allen. So Tex himself is a very accomplished jazz musician. You've played with, I think, many of the jazz greats. Bill Evans, you had a whole list. Gil Evans. Gil Evans, you've got a whole list of folks who you might talk about a little bit in a moment. Has had a piece in the soundtrack for the movie Amistad and a number of other Broadway and whatnot things over the years. So I probably should have a better, more formal introduction than that, but
you could have taken a little time.
Yeah, we could have put that piece together. But I think maybe we could just start out by saying, what was it that brought your family here in the mid-50s?
My mother brought us here. And I guess she had a little bit of research in her education, was aware of some of the characteristics and people who formed this approach to living, being a Unitarian, Universalist, and we had been at another church, but the marriage of my family, my parents, began to take on other nuances, and they separated. So we ventured our way here.
So what was it like those first Sundays you were here?
You could have asked me about last week. I might not remember that either.
The problem with oral history, right?
That's quite a minute ago.
Sure.
Yeah, it was. It's like virgin territory, someplace you have no frame of reference of. You just you're in a moment of discovery, and that's a whole community of people, and then yourself as well. Yeah, it was new. It was all new. And it was also very inspiring as I guess we got to about the third week here, because by that time I had met people attending this church and children, which I was sort of in that bracket. Very interesting characters. Yeah. I would call us highly individualized individuals, and there was it was quite the call of the nature of personalities here. Very interesting, very funny, very brilliant, very willing, to be involved with education and fun activities. Yeah, with a sense of, God-given morality. We didn't give courses or classes in that, but I think the people attending had a natural base, and a respect for life, people, personalities. Yeah, it was really interesting.
So, did your family sort of set out consciously to integrate the church, or was it sort of just a thing that happened because your mom was attracted to Unitarian values?
At the time, I don't remember the word integrating or integration so utilized, other than it was a new place, a new place to come and worship and meet and discover, a new addition to family life, which are the people who are basically in here with you, and we felt like that. It was good. I mean, we lived in it. That was at a time when you had separatism across America, especially in the South, maybe. But wherever you go, you meet people, and most of the places I've traveled to, I found the human heart to be pretty much the same, and if they haven't been corrupted or infected with some kind of, I use the word dilemmatic ways of thinking or characters, you're more open for it and interested, in what you might learn, and you find things there that there's always something that you can discover as a gift as we live and breathe, and moving in territories. Yeah.
So how did your connection and coming here relate to sort of the civil rights movement and the movement that was going on at the time?
Well, in hindsight, as far as a place where you had a living activity or a living activational life together as people, racially speaking, it was an easy call. We were just here, we were all here, just like you put babies in a nursery, Mm-hmm. They don't know anything about that, which we may know about it because we're in that environment. That kind of thing has its maturity or its advancement in time and space, and convincing in the minds of some who didn't know anything about that, and their innocence were sort of placated in a structured environment that practiced racism by people who were born into an environment with their leaders or people who provisioned for them. They provisioned if that's an ethic or whatever you want to call it, but racism from an innocent point of view. They didn't know anything about it. And it may not have anything to do with age other than no experience.
So did you experience sort of any racism when you entered into the congregation, or was it sort of?
Well, I mean, yeah, in semantics or actuality, yeah, the word Caucasian was a discovery for me. Before that, it was white or black or red or brown or yellow or, all those things. But, like when you make a gumbo or a pie, you have ingredients, right? And we're all ingredients. And we all have gifts. And it's how you function. what you have to bring. But, at the best, the best utilage of all these things that we have, acceptance of it, it makes for a very revelational and joyous experience. Yeah, it really does.
So, I know that you came up through the religious education program and were then, I think, president of the student youth group at one point, the LRY group or something like that you mentioned?
President of what?
The LRY, the Liberal Religious Youth Group, or the senior high school group at some point, or involved in it?
You mean here?
Here, or, yeah, no? Is that wrong?
We had a liberal religious youth group. I was the editor of a paper that was distributed through the Southwest, through Oklahoma, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, and people who were adventurines or sort of involved in all these communities. In this church, some in the Texas legislature, some in church organizations, various organizations, so they got around a lot. And it provisioned the children places to go and have activities, for kids. And occasionally you'd have a lot of programs. They had a theater group here, a choir director, fun, and also educational, in terms of activities. So it was a real adventure.
So what are some of the values you would say that you sort of got from that experience?
Values?
Values.
Oh, I think life brings you values wherever you are, And being here, I got goosebumps, I remember we went to go ice skating once, and it was the first time for me. I didn't know anything about ice skating, but the management at the skating rink or whatever ice skating place wouldn't allow me to put on skates and participate or, join in the activity. And a couple of members, some of the children, noticed this at first and told everybody about it. So they all joined ranks together and says, if he's not going, we're not going. He can't skate when we don't care to skate. And it touches the heart, especially being in my position in that moment, that that's who these children were and are, And that's the way they are when they come here, really. They're all kind of like, they don't have a problem with it. They aren't taught or, propagandized with separatism or you can't do this. They're like instant friends when they see each other, I hear people say, I'd love to see the face of Jesus, or I'd love to see God's face. I said, I think the closest you get to that is like looking into the eyes of a very young child. And if you see a smile in it, then it's smiling on you. And that's everywhere you go, They don't know how to lie. They don't lie. They don't cheat. They don't have agendas to be self-serving. They're so in touch with their feelings, which we get seduced of our graces and not only, you know, like it's like you're kind of invited to ignore your feelings or not have access to your graces, because if the repetitiveness of, you know, it's this way, you know, when it's really, what way is that?
A very universalist statement. There's a universalist theological saying that says we're not born with original sin, but as original blessings.
Original blessings?
Yeah, original blessings.
Yeah, well,
like
the breath is original, you know, and that's one of the greatest miracles God's given us. But as I was given to say upon an occasion, you know, the breath is only as good as what you do with it. And I kind of believe that, you know. Yeah.
So you and your family are an immensely talented family, and I know that you started out playing music very young. You want to talk about sort of your early years in Houston with music and how it connected to the church?
Oh. Well, my mother, she was a concert pianist, a classical pianist. She studied that and English, storytelling, or being a person of literature. And my dad was a very, very well accomplished dentist who was also a humanist and an entrepreneur, in the sense that he sponsored a lot of people that weren't privileged enough to afford schools or afford treatment. They don't talk about him that much, but he was really quite my hero in a way, character-wise. You know, he was the kind of guy that there were some families who couldn't afford treatment, and he would treat them. And he would say something like, well, you know, maybe next week it could be Wednesday, it could be Thursday, or it could be, you know, Friday, or any one of those days. I think I'll come to your house and maybe we'll have dinner, you know, or, you know, taste some of your cooking, or something like that. He made it really easy, and he was very loving and humanist component in this civilization, if you want to call it that. But and his father fed a whole community during the Depression. He was one of the first Afro-Americans to drive trains in this country. And we had a farm in Louisiana, and they would go there and pick up goods. My grandfather would walk 5 miles a day to work every day, and he'd come home with 2 big bags every day, all the time. They called him the man with the bags. But he helped feed a lot of communities, and he encouraged education. He encouraged respect for the nature of the climate or the environment that we live in. And some of that had to deal with racism and the policies of people who were working in environmental safety, or the idea of treatment in terms of people that might be vulnerable in a neighborhood or out on the street, being Afro-Americans, what might happen if they get picked up, or some group that was like anti-Afro-American should run into them, and quite often things like that happen. I experienced some of that too at the stables at Herman Park. I was a horse lover, you know. I used to draw horses every day and stuff like that, you know. And I ventured there with my dog, and they put their dogs on me, or they let them go, more or less, so I had to run home. But, my mother was a fighter. I don't want to get confused here. I'm talking about my dad, too. But it was, children have, they don't understand until they have to go through that a lot about the environment. And so my grandfather was very strict on his sons about being inside the house, by sundown in that period of when they grew up, which is like the preceding that, from the early 1900s, up to World War II when everyone was pretty much moving into being an adult. And it made a difference in them being safe. It made a difference in them having an education, which he really, really sponsored that a lot, Yeah.
So I think the original question had been about music, though, and getting how you'd gotten sort of involved in it and any connections you had between music and this church, because I know you love that piano and you've,
I don't know, maybe we come here as spirits. You may have a preordained personal involvement in something like music or dance or any of the arts. I remember very early, like probably at 3 or 4, singing melodies. I hadn't gone to school yet, but I do remember that, so it's always been with me, and maybe we traveled here a few times, I don't doubt that. I remember going to Lebanon, and they told me Christ had come twice before already, and I said, really? I didn't hear that story. But, I do remember singing music very early in life, and music has sort of seen me through a lot of dilemmatic situations and good situations too. It's always been present. So, in the arts, our family has a calling for that. My mother's father was a violinist, and I'm told that he had a degree in mathematics, but nowhere to go with it in South Carolina, so he became a blacksmith, and a very good one. And I just loved music, and they provisioned places for us to experience arts. We were very privileged in having the parents that we have. They found wherever you could become involved with an art with people that were very advanced in these arts. And the schools had programs to take the whole school to the Houston Symphony or other artists to be exposed with very divine expressions. And in the neighborhoods, we were given people who were really very special in the performance of the various things that they chose to be performers of, be it medicine, be it teachers, be it guidelines, so to speak, and inspirations. It's really unique, it's such a gift in the communities, especially here in Houston. I don't know many communities that had such a dichotomy of people that were really very advanced people and also human beings. They weren't so publicized as being involved with politics or social demographics that were not in keeping with how you really build a house, you know, and you're trying to build a nation. These people, they were components of, they were all humanists, basically. Very point blank honest about things and supportive. It would come to your aid if you needed it, you know. And that was really one of the miracles in terms of our persistence in being expressionists in art and being a member, a real member of the human family. You know, they weren't in the news so much all the time, but they were there. You know, it was really cool.
So you want to talk about maybe the influence that this church has had on you over your life? Because I know you graduated from high school, you went off to North Texas University.
I went to North Texas State University.
And then eventually went on to New York to become a jazz musician. So sort of what has the values from being here at First Houston, kind of how have you carried those forward?
Well, I know as, you know, I've probably always been a musician. I thought I might become a dentist like my dad, you know, but our activity together was sort of put on a tacit in a way, not that active. And my uncle, Joseph Allen, had a band here in Houston. I made real progress very quickly playing trumpet as a child. Well, I played piano before that, and I was reading piano. I won a contest to conduct the Houston Symphony at 11, and I was reading the score. It was my introduction to reading a score, but I kind of comprehended it pretty well. We were all kind of naturally where we are today, musicians. I'm a composer, a jazz musician in terms of most of the performances I deal with, but in all realms of music, which is really the language of the heart and the soul. And it's with sound, it's with expression, it's with emotion, it's with communication and what that is. And it's real in the places that I've been to, in the folklore of their music in different places. You can feel that, and there's a genuineness, a sincerity in the stories of the music that they have. You know, the blues, which is sort of like a bridge that you get to express your suffering, but you get to rise above it. And it's a story. People really relate to that because you got so many of these stories here in this country. And in North Africa, the form of the blues, structure-wise, from Morocco and Algeria and other places, you know, you can hear that. And in the lyrics and in the sentiment in the music in other places, you can hear that, like in Norway or Germany or in Central America. Everywhere you go, you know, they have these stories. These are human stories. Our connection is the breath of life, which we all have that, you know. We can all do that, you know. There's revelation in that. That's, Spirit speaks in the process of that. Yeah. And music comes, as I went to study music at North Texas State, or studied here, and I learned, you know, like how to have more facility, I guess, but and warming up, just like a daily prayer. When you get up, warm up for your day, you can kind of have an idea of what you're dealing with. And at some point, I stopped trying to write music, because music, you know, is such a bond. The spirit of it would just provision itself to me at different times. And it was very emotional for me, the things that would come. It was much more than me. And it related to experiences, and related to the heart, it related to the whole idea of, in most of the places, this forgivingness, or the mercy that there is in life. Yeah.
So you want to talk a little bit about your musical career in New York at some of the
In
jazz?
New York?
Yeah.
Well, in Houston, which a lot of musicians that are in New York that are very great musicians, a lot of them come from Texas. I mean, amazing, you know. And they have more respect, or more, how shall I say, camaraderie. And sometimes you have to go somewhere else, you know, because people are placated into something that keeps them from really rising to meeting each other in different environments. And it's been a ride, you know, all kinds of things in New York. But I was very active on the scene here in Houston as a writer, a composer, a band leader, at the United Nations Sextet, which looked like the United Nations Sextet in the membership. But we were involved in music that was on records, and my inspirations, they were really big influences. I got to meet a lot of them when I got to New York, and gradually I began to work with them. And some of them working, you know, in structures that I was, you know, sort of leading. Quintets, sextets, orchestrating for different functions, Broadway or television. I worked with the Gil Evans Orchestra, who did the orchestrations for Porgy and Bess, which Miles Davis recorded that, and I was playing the same chair in that organization. I was so excited about that. We had a concert in upstate New York at, where is it? They had the Olympics in New York, in the
Rochester?
mountains. Wait a minute.
No, I don't know.
I'm sorry. It eludes me right now, but we were on stage. I don't know, this is a little different, but, you know, it was amazing to be playing with that orchestra, you know, and they had this one piece that they were doing. And that repeated and it repeated, and then it breaks, and the drums doing their thing, and the drums break. And I'm supposed to come in and, on the trumpet and play, you know, really. So they did that, and they played this arrangement. And they got to the point where it broke, and I was supposed to come in. I froze, you know. It's just like I couldn't move. I was consumed by this music. And so Gil says, start it again. So he does. And he did that, and when he broke, it's like I tried to play the bell off my trumpet, it really came in very forcefully. And people there are really cool, I came over to him and I was trying to apologize. I said, I'm so sorry about that. And he says, don't mention it, just don't mention it. People like Miles Davis, who I became friends with, He's a very interesting guy. And most of the people there, all of them really, the great pianists, Hank Jones, Tommy Flanagan, Roland Hanna, there's so many of them, Mickey Tucker, drummers, which was sort of my reason to go to New York, because the greatest drummers in the world were really in New York. Elvin Jones and Art Blakey and Max Roach, Tony Williams, Billy Hart. I got to work with these people, and I listened to them on records. And Cannonball Adderley, who was very much encouraging for me. He liked my music and wanted to write it. His brother was also Nat Adderley. There's so many names of dancers that I met. Carmen de Lavalade, I became friends with my daughter as her name, And they're like magic people, but they're so humble and sometimes outrageous, but very sincere. And it took me kind of under their wing a little bit, showed me a few things. That was really cool. And yeah. So some of the things I write, they've given themselves to me to write, to share with you, because it's for people. Yeah, it's really for people. And how much time do we have?
Maybe I got a couple more questions. And then
You got a couple more questions? Okay, I'm good.
You're good. You're good. And then if you want to play for a minute or two, and if not, that's cool too. But were you connected with Unitarian Universalism when you were in New York, or is that strictly kind of
with who?
With Unitarianism in New York, or is that strictly a
I got
Texas
married
thing?
in a Unitarian church in New York, but I wasn't attending it, I didn't really attend church that much. I went to all kinds of churches and different houses of, God's revelations for people. And I was telling a friend of mine the other day that, I walk into all the houses, and I'm welcome in all of them. And I said, he says, well, how is that? I said, well, it's simple, it's everywhere you go on this earth. There's some communication spiritually from the Creator, and they all refer to this as the Creator. And the revelations that have come to these people in these different places, The basic theme I find in all of them, though, is, would you rather be happy or would you rather be sad? And the precepts that they all have in all of these houses, that God's given everybody on this earth in their various places, or their various languages, or their various whatever. There's guidelines for that, like, would you rather be happy or would you rather be sad? So, I get up every day and try to practice, say hello to, delight over dilemma? Yeah. And it's a choice that people have. We do have a choice, but then again, you have to experience a lot of things to know the difference between the two sometimes, because some people live in dilemma because that's all they know. And delight that they have in that kind of like refurbishes or leads them into more of dilemma. Yeah, but delight is it's like you have wings, you have So it's a thing in the heart.
So what's brought you back to our congregation now, since you've been...
Well, I mean, I had a frame of reference because I used to come here. And it was a good frame of reference, you know, in terms of the arts. And I came here to deal with a family situation, you know, to find solution for some things. And, you know, it's like mathematics, you know. You start off with 1 + 1, but by the time you get to trigonometry and, you know, quadratic equations, you know, like it's a real travel. And sometimes you get there quicker, but, you know, if you really have a situation like that and you're going to need the knowledge of all that, you go through a lot more. Yeah. Yeah, so I came here for that. And I would come here and practice. But this was a house that was always open, you know, and welcoming for progress, for expression, for familyhood, you know. Yeah.
So here's the hard question that you may or may not have any thoughts on. But I think First Unitarian Universalist was, you know, the first historically white congregation in Houston to try to be integrated in some way. And 70-some years later, we're still struggling to be a multiracial congregation. So I'm wondering if you have thoughts on what we should be doing at this point to try to be more open to people of all races rather than, you know, remain a predominantly white congregation. Or
you know, when babies are born, and you can go to a hospital or whatever, they don't try to be anything. They are everything they are. And if we can rediscover our original identity, you know, like before you get caught up in the clouds of all the mess and or whatever it is that has taken you or us, whether it's by seduction or whether it's by disruption or total invasion in your life. It could be charming, whatever. But if it takes you away, and it does for most people on this planet, in a lot of places, they become out of touch with their original identity. You know, they've gone like so far away from it. And trust me, I went pretty far. Like to the other side of Mars, because I took a train that, you know, I thought it was going one place and I didn't know what I was getting on. But whatever, for you to have the divine gift of saying hello to yourself and really recognizing it, what you're about, you know, as a kid, you know, you don't have to try too hard, you know. And the choice isn't whatever, it's something you, I don't know, I have a unyielding gratitude, you know what I mean, or gratitude that just doesn't alter because of that. And it's given me a lot to be able to say to people that they might be able to get it, you know, like what I'm saying to you right now. You know, because people who experience that, that feel that, and they have a lot in them. You know, they may have been great achievers or whatever, you know, but the ultimate reality or relationship is the one we have with the Creator, and the gifts and the navigation that we have on a daily basis to attend to And when I feel like maybe smiling, you know, because I think maybe he's smiling at me because I'm doing something that's like whatever, and even if I'm not, I'm attentive. And, you know, it's a big difference between understanding how great it is to really worship, you know, the gift. You know, you have that. But if you're not conscious of it, and you've been kind of like duped into staying unconscious of it, you deprive yourself, you deprive your neighbor, you deprive almost everything, you know. And eventually that little simple, very important gift called breath. We all need that. We all have that. We need to remember that, you know. It's not just something you have to try to do. You do that very naturally. And if it wasn't there for you to have or it was threatened, you'd very naturally be very upset about that. You know, so we needn't deprive ourselves of each other. Doesn't mean we have to go out and really make an effort to do anything. But we encounter whatever's in our presence and whatever we're in the presence of. And so it's like a restoring you to you, you know. You just naturally, you know, kind of get along with yourself, you know, a lot better. Delight over dilemma, you know. Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to share?
Oh, maybe I'll play a melody on the piano.
That'd be great.
Yeah. All right. This is called Forever I Love You.
thank you, Tex, for sharing a little of your story and your relationship with our congregation and blessing us with that song. It's